Welcome back, everybody. I'm your host, Scott Dozier, with my co-host here, Aaron Moon. Say what's up, Aaron.
What's up, man?
Hey, today we are talking about shadow work. So, shadow work is kind of the process of exploring and integrating the unconscious parts of oneself. I believe that shadow work was actually coined by Carl Jung. The practice kind of aims to increase self-awareness and like triggers and acceptance and bringing, I guess, these things that are in the unconscious and the subconscious that are maybe hidden from the forefront of our mind, or the things that maybe we keep hidden from other people.
Yeah, there's
Bring
that quote by Carl Jung. I think he said if you don't bring the unconscious conscious, it's gonna
rules your life, right?
rule your life, and you'll just think it's fake.
And you call it fate. Yeah,
Not
that's
the
the quote.
exact.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's basically it. It'll rule your life, and you'll call it fate. I think that something that's really wonderful is that with a bit of more of an up leveling of the collective consciousness that we're experiencing right now, that a lot of these things are being brought to the surface. We're talking about these things more regularly. Shadow work is a very commonly known term these days, where most people, if I bring it up, they understand what it's at least referring to, not necessarily that they're maybe intentionally working through their shadow, but that they're at least aware of it. For me, when I think about shadow work, it's really just kind of integrating some of my trauma, right? The things that instances or situations, or maybe something somebody says that triggers me, rather than having this knee-jerk reaction, generally unfavorable reaction, or this what we may view as like a negative emotion arise within me. I pause, I see what's there for me. Not every time, obviously, right? Pause, see what's there for me, maybe respond in a different manner than I would coming from a triggered place. And then I have, guys like you, guys like Bobby, we've got the Knights Council where we sit around and say, hey, this happened this week. I was triggered. I kind of worked through that. I responded in this way, or, I kind of responded in a triggered way. I wish I would have changed that. And having a place where I can actually talk and reflect about it, right? A healthy reflection, self-reflection, I think is a really, really big part of shadow work and or of integrating the shadow, right?
Yeah, like who even needs to know about this? First of all, like if you have judgments about something, if you judge others harshly, whether you're criticizing people, you need to hop into shadow work. Look at what this is: subconscious stuff, right? You've got some repeating patterns in your life, same relationship issues, same career obstacles, same relationships with guys, women, parents, whatever. This is your shadow running the show. If you feel like imposter or you feel incomplete, you're not whole and complete. Like you just mentioned, it's a process of becoming whole, integrating the stuff that's going on, cracking off in your brain as your brain was forming its neural network. It's being encoded by environment and people around you. You need shadow work. If you know there's more that you can't access it, you need to do shadow work. You need to get in here and do some exploration. And if you have unexplained anger or rage, emotions that come out of nowhere that are super highly, like a lot of energy behind them, then this is definitely for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Essentially, this is, for guys, this is a topic that most men avoid: shadow work. Now, this isn't woo woo stuff either. This is not spiritual bypassing. It's basically coming from Carl Jung. Now, if you are a historian or an archaeologist or someone who studies culture, history, then you can find trails where Carl picked off or picked up from the path of others before him. The ancient Vedas, ancient Tantric Buddhists, ancient scrolls, texts from many of the Kabbalah, you'll find pointers or references to what we're now calling shadow work. And it's psychology. It's also sirens when the alarm bells are going off in the background and you're not looking at what those red flags might be. I mean, I'm not concerned with the police, here in the hood, but I am concerned if I feel afraid on a daily basis or highly charged with stress on a daily basis, and I'm not taking a look at that. If I am taking a look at that, when I do take a look at that, when I investigate this, where's this coming from? What's happening in my body? What posture do I adopt? And what feelings am I expressing? What do I look like? What do I sound like? These submodalities, the submodalities of taste, feel, touch, sound, color, shape. If you look at the submodalities behind a charged emotion or with a person or in an environment with a situation, then that's essentially shadow work. And until you integrate this stuff, you're not whole. We aren't as powerful. We're not free. We're being owned. And the whole, like the bumper sticker for shadow work could say, own your shit or it owns you, right?
Mhm.
And school for men, in the school for men, we don't shy away from these hard conversations. We lean into them because this is where the transformation happens. So let's unpack it, man. Let's unpack shadow work, why it matters. What are we talking about here? What do I actually do without turning into like a victim of therapy, for example? And this
Mhm.
shit doesn't work. We
And I guess, kind of on that note, right? What are some tools in practicing or integrating your shadow, or what are some of the things that we do to help us with shadow work, right? Like I found that journaling is a really big one for me, meditation, and then reflection in the journaling, right? Writing about things that have come up. I've been to therapy,
that's
very,
it. One, two,
very,
three.
very, very helpful. Those are the three things, huh? You think journaling, therapy, and meditation, huh?
There's a fourth component though, and that is testing it out in real time or getting a sense that you can tell. So an easy one for the holidays
Well, it's like
is
anything else, you have to
family
put it
and
into
friends.
into practice, right? Like I can understand, for instance, as a baseball coach, right? I can understand the mechanics of hitting a ball, but if I don't go and actually physically practice that and create that neural pathway in my brain on how to do it, right? Then like when I come into the situation, generally speaking, I'm going to do what I previously done. Like I can talk in theory about these triggers and what they do, but like getting in a group with people and maybe having a reflection where Aaron, I ask you to say something to me that would normally trigger me. And then I practice a little bit of centering, my own pausing and responding in a way that's not triggered. Like that's actually integrating the shadow and actually putting the theory into practice, right?
Yeah, exactly. And there's a few ways people do shadow work. One is a super quick way. We can do it right now. We can ask ourselves, what did I get from my mom that I did not want? What did I get from my dad that I did not want? What didn't I get from my mom that I wanted? What didn't I get from my dad that I wanted? And then you can see how these are actually playing out in your own life. And normally it's like, oh, I'm doing the same thing my parents did that I don't like. Well, that is a shadow trait worth investigating. And then let's say for the holidays, there's arguing about the same thing every time, right? Or there's alcohol and you don't like it when your dad or your mom or something takes the third drink. You start to like, you want to do something about it or intervene. There's a part of yourself there that you're in conflict with. And that part of you, you can name it, you can claim it, or it continues to claim you. Changes your body shape, tightens your muscles, your viscera, tightens your guts, something like that. That's an area where you can do shadow work. Ultimately, it's a part of ourselves that we're denying or rejecting, or I'm repressing. I'm not going to admit that I want a threesome in this specific way with this combination of people. I'm going to keep that hidden. And so try to like unconsciously, the mind and the body is going to try and get that from different sexual encounters. And people aren't going to like that because there's an angle happening and you're not even in control. It's not connecting. It's not present. So ultimately, rage, envy, greed, selfishness, desire, power, all of the things that are in Krishna's bhagas, all of these things that we're all going to Krishna, are the things that we want or the things that we don't want. There's chosen conscious attitude about ourselves, and then there's the underlying way of our mask we show the world, the ego self, who I think I am or want to be, and then the shadow, everything else I've disowned or disliked about the world, especially myself. And it's not just negative traits, right? Like there's a gift What I like to say is it's a gift in the shadow. It's a message trying to reveal something. A trigger is something that gets revealed, right?
Right.
There's some information, it gets revealed. And it's not just the morally reprehensible stuff that's in there. We can actually gain appropriate reactions and realistic insights, whole brain, adult oriented perspectives, new perspectives on stuff that normally pisses us off or we don't like or we're just avoiding through shadow work. And that didn't really tell you how we do it. We can talk about the ways we had it. I just wanted to say what it actually means, and
Mhm.
maybe we can start there. What's the start of the shadow work? And in plain English, it's a process. I have a 3-part process, and there's kind of 5 sections within the process. But we identify the thing that we don't like about
First
myself.
and foremost, right? Yeah.
Yep, become aware of it. Then
Awareness is number one. Yep.
then I gotta understand the thing. Why this is happening, or what meaning am I giving it? So
What
awareness,
the next thing I go to there is like, why is this triggering me, or where does this come from? Right?
yep,
Like for
there we go.
me, what is the source of this discomfort within me, if you will, right?
And the next step is really feeling the impact of that. Feeling and accepting, to me, are really one and the same, or accepting
Hmm.
and integrating. Accepting that this is a part of me, really feeling it. Most people are just afraid of their feelings. This is where the most shame is, in my experience, in almost 20 years of doing this work, facilitating sessions with all kinds of people, not just men, but everybody has this shame layer in their identity, or a fear layer about something they did, fear, anger. And now, once I uncover what that is, I can integrate it using different postures that create different whole brain states, or
Mm.
just go out in the world. If you have shadow on sex, or with women, or with love, or relationships, you can do this work and then go test it out. If you're single and dating, or test it out with your wife or partner if you're with somebody. And in that moment, like you said, where you go test the trigger, you can choose. Once you've identified it, you've accepted it, and you've felt it. Now you have a felt, an intellectual, and a somatic relationship with something that's inside of you. It's just fucking feeling. Whether it's the Christmas holiday thing, or whether it's work or women, and now you've done the shadow work, you've identified it, you've accepted it, you've felt it. Now, with the help of a brother, like you just mentioned, this is the necessary step. It's like the peer review process in writing.
Hmm.
If you don't do it, you don't know if your writing is shit. If you do the shadow work
Hmm.
and you're like, check, I'm good, you don't know. If you really uncovered it, you need a way to gauge, is this trigger still at a 7, 8, 9, 10? Am I still fucking redlining on it? Or holy shit, I'm at a 4. And now with that awareness, I can choose differently. And that's basically the 5th step. We make it real by engaging in reality and changing that around. We can tell that probably matters a lot, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that at least for me in my experience, right? That feeling and that recognizing and the integrating is like the most difficult part of it, right? And getting to the roots of
Yeah.
what this, because this is where we really shy away, right? We shy away from like, oh, this is uncomfortable. This is, I don't like the way this makes me feel. There's a lot of things when we're in this process that I think come up that make us want to run, if you will, like I'm trying to go, and for me, who does have some avoidant tendencies, right? Now we're talking about attachment styles. When I say avoidant tendencies, I do have some avoidant tendencies, like anything that is uncomfortable for me, I kind of want to escape. And like the brain wants to do this naturally, right? The brain wants to find a safe, harmonious space for you. And so what we need
Quickest
to
way to pleasure, quickest way away from pain. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And so in that, what we need to realize is that what is the the phrase like the only way out is through, right? So the
Yeah,
more
you're the greatest gold is in the cave that's guarded by the biggest dragon.
yeah. So, you know, as much as we want to avoid it because it doesn't feel good or whatever, well, it's just going to continue to come up and it's going to continue to come up. And like the Carl Jung quote, you're going to call it fate. It's going to run your life. If you don't make the unconscious conscious, you're going to call it fate. It's going to run your life. Right. And so making it conscious, seeing it, transmuting, right? This term has been thrown around a lot lately, transmuting this energy so that it no so and it may still hit, you know what I mean, next time, but you go, oh wait, I know where that comes from, I know what that's about, that's no longer real and present or no longer has a stronghold on me, or I know how to navigate this, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's the way.
It's estimated based on Carl Jung's work that like only 5% of all adults, including men, only develop psychologically past the state of adolescence. And by not doing this work, you become one of the 95% of people, the 95 out of 100 people who don't get to develop psychologically past your childhood age. So you're just walking around living through your childhood programming in an adult body. So we're reacting at the emotional level and the mental with the mental affinity of someone who doesn't really understand the world, is frustrated at the world, has been shut down and shamed for their emotions, told what to do all the time. It's just really fucking irritable
Yeah.
and stressful and doesn't like things. And so we react. Only now we have adult tools like beer, porn, or the bar,
Right.
strip shows, food. We can make adult choices to pad the frustration and irritation that we feel, or we can just do the work and get to really, it's a level of self intimacy. All intimacy is self intimacy. If
100%.
I'm intimate with myself, if I really get to know that feeling of frustration very intimately, then I own it. It no longer owns me. And I begin to choose differently in the situations. And now my actual brain starts to change away from the childhood program operating system. It's
Yeah.
actually correct.
Yeah, for sure. Like that's crazy. There's that only 5 out of 100 men have psychologically developed past the stage of adolescence. It sounds like a crazy statistic, right? Like that's like wow, really? But if you're out there and you're interacting, it makes a lot of sense. Like it's hilarious, bro. Like I coach youth baseball, and you have dads that are getting upset with their kids for not regulating their emotions. Okay. These are 10, 11, 12-year olds who haven't themselves learned how to regulate their emotions. So you have these fucking men that are acting like children, that are acting like teenagers, right? Like so much, like in coaching, it's all mostly men that are also coaching, and so I'm interacting with these men all the time who they get they get triggered and they spout off and they're acting some kind of way, or even parents in the stands, you know, who are acting like children, and they're expecting their child to regulate their emotions when they're not even capable of it because they don't even have the tools to do it. So like I teach breathing exercises and stuff like that, and helping them to understand how to regulate their emotions is how scientifically this helps you to regulate your emotions. And I'm teaching them skills at a very young age right now where they can learn things that their parents maybe don't even know, you know? And it's just it's such a problem
This
when we
shadow
haven't done
work.
the work, right? It's such a problem. It shows up all over the place, and then you're not able to have healthy communication because someone is coming from this defensive place because they haven't done the work to understand this isn't personal. I can have healthy discourse about this, right?
Yeah. So in that example, a parent is projecting themselves onto the child, and this happens. We unconsciously do this. We can. It's easy to spot that dislike for their kids' performance in that example, or dislike for certain people, and often those specifics. If the parents had a background, even if they did one process or two processes or three processes you shadow work, they would be able to indicate where they are in dislike with themselves, really. And for example, Carl Jung saw super clearly, man, that failure to become aware of and deal with the shadow elements is most of the root problems. It's all in the big bucket of subconscious reprogramming. And another side benefit of actually doing the shadow work is it can elicit flow states and achieve more creativity. Jung found that drawing, painting, dancing, sculpting became easier. So if parents of your teenage athletes are not expressing themselves, they've shut those parts of themselves down. They don't know what's cracking off in their subconscious. And now, so that now they're unconsciously projecting themselves onto kids for whatever reason. Who knows what's cracking off around there? And unconsciously projecting, and the consequence of that is like they're stressed out. There's a physical health impact. There's a mental health impact, and there's an impact on the relationship between, even if it wasn't a kid, it doesn't matter who it is. You get freaked out and start yelling, pop a fucking vein in your head, and then you're in the hospital, with a stroke. There's a big impact. And shadow work really takes control of this. It takes control of, excuse me, the shadow is what's taking control of all this. The subconscious is taking control of all of this. It doesn't just disappear when if we want to ignore it and feel comfortable and hide in our beds. That would be a child's responsibility. Find yourself in this
Right.
mode. Definitely get into the group and take the course and do this stuff. Yeah, otherwise you just go around sabotaging relationships, creating conflicts, manifesting a fucking illness,
Self-sabotage is a big
and
aspect
being
of unhealed trauma, right? AKA, your shadow. So yeah, I think just to kind of to graze back over it, right? Meditation, therapy, journaling. There's also, I know that yoga can bring up a lot of stuck emotion in the body. Mirror work is another one, right? Where you literally just stare at yourself in the mirror and see what comes up and observe it. Something that you can write on, that you can talk to somebody about, and getting in a group of men you can have these conversations with, and we have some other methods like psyche, where you can begin integrating some of these imbalances that are in the brain and creating a whole brain state, and you can begin to heal from some of these triggers and these traumas. We do it inside the group. Come on in here, get some healing, get some shadow work. Let's integrate, let's be better versions of ourselves, right?
I want to talk, yeah, just really briefly. You touched on the core principles of shadow work. So here it is. The shadow contains a message. It contains part of your power, electrically, chemically, physiology, and for sure, emotionally, spiritually. And integration totally beats suppression here, but masculine shadow work is going to be different. Okay. So the ground rule for men is that the intensity that of which you repress this part of yourself, or the intensity of emotion that comes out when you're triggered, that's the intensity that a man is going to need to contact and process his shadow. Okay. So that's why some men really need, like, fucking rage, or the tears come out,
Mhm.
right? There needs to be a level of intensity that
Mhm.
matches the intensity in which we suppress or express the shadow. Most often I've seen men's shadows contain suppressed power, rage, sexuality, ambition, this type of thing. And that's the action step is what most men's programs or class coursework is missing. Some therapy keeps just spinning the wheels and fucking talking about it and processing it, like emotion, it's fun. No, we must use this work as fuel for growth. It's the insight, like we said, insight, awareness, integration, action, and then results. And there's a practical application too. You just mentioned mirror work. You wanna do a little quick reaction test?
True. So
Okay, so this is for anybody watching. You can just list 5 people you strongly judge or dislike. It could be the president or the pope, or it could be just the 5 people in your neighborhood or work you dislike or judge. For each person, write specifically about what you judge them on. John's a fucking asshole. Sarah is a manipulative bitch. Karen is such a fucking good guy. God, Dave is just an asshole, super aggressive, right? Okay. So you list those out and then you ask, what part of me does this reflect? And this is the step. It's like, oh, most guys immediately are going to say, oh, that doesn't mean anything about me. Well, if that's true, then why are you holding on to this judgment? It's impossible to have a judgment without a reflection on yourself. We're living a
What's the
hall of mirrors.
what's that saying that you identify the thing in someone else that you dislike the most in yourself, right? Or
And the
that
same works.
yeah.
Yeah, like if you were in love with an artist or a musician or an actor, there's something that they're expressing about you that you relate to that's inside of you. So the truth is that if John is a fucking asshole, then you know what? Uh, I keep my mouth shut. I don't promote myself. Okay, and that like John is killing it, and so I'm envious of John. Karen, uh, she's acting like a victim. I just gloss over shit, you know.
Mhm.
My family died in a car wreck, and I was the only survivor. And that's cool. I'm good, you know. Something like that. Like I should
Mhm.
express my so name the truth of the parts of you that this reflects, and then if anyone gets anything about this, you can post in the free community. Join the free community and post in the wins channel or results channel
Uh-huh.
in the school for men. So
Mhm.
the next is the reaction test. There's another reaction test. So what triggers you? What makes you react like disproportionately? Is it someone being late? Someone being loud in a movie theater? Someone on a plane sitting next to you and being fat, right? Like someone being weak, someone being selfish, someone being emotional, someone being emotional. I see my own family shame each other. You're getting emotional. You're getting emotional. Well, no shit. I'm a human being. I have emotions and I'm responsible for them, one, and I respect that because they're important. Like I'm a human being and I have emotions. If she's like you're getting emotional, shutting that down, definitely that's in your shadow. You can also explore the opposite, like I said. If you pride yourself on being nice or
Mhm.
peaceful or a performer in some way, then explore your capacity for cruelty and for defense. If you love how smart I am, how logical I am, you can explore your emotional depths. If you're really penny wise, then explore your desires and needs and how you can give or spend money and experience joy. If you're like, I'm just a peaceful warrior, everything's love and light, well, then maybe you should be the one exploring your rage and your violence and your ability to exercise one of the primary pillars of yourself as a man, and that is protection. There's a word in yoga called ahimsa. It's mostly misinterpreted as non-violence, and that's not
Non-violence,
true.
right? Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
very not true. The word really mostly means the appropriate level of violence for your station and situation in life. If someone comes in to your village and they are immediately going to stab women and children, chances are you're just going to let that down. I'm not practice ahimsa. It's non-violence. No, you're going to take that person out. I would hope. You'll
Yeah.
just be like, I'm a man of non-violence, and then you're dead, right? So it's a
Yeah.
appropriate level of violence according to your situation. And just wanted to mention that. I think we didn't talk about acceptance, the integration part of shadow work, and that's where if you just did this exploration and
We did in the beginning. You'd mentioned that being one of the steps.
oh right, so in this step we were just saying, in this quick reaction test of someone being late, we did all these questions, right? We just did the questions about identifying the shadow and identifying your reactivity or exploring the opposite. Now we can understand why, right? The understanding phase is like, when did you first learn this? Who taught you about the thing? What do I gain by hiding this or suppressing it or not expressing it? And then three is the acceptance. So, like, I'm capable of anger, and that's okay. I have desires as a human, and I own that. I deserve my desires, right? Or I contain violence and anger, and I choose how do I channel it, right? You can create these commands, and then through different processes and one-on-one work, like you mentioned, Psyche, we can literally rewire these into a healthy expression. Or if we want to do it, it's a bit more challenging, but still effective to just go test it out in the real world. If you've got aggression, you're not going to go test it out with more violence and destruction or dominating others. You're going to go out and maybe join a friendly competition or speak up for yourself in a leadership contest or protect what matters to yourself and set clear boundaries, right? If it's your sexuality, you're going to make a communication statement. And these can be figured out mostly with the help of partnership. That's why we do community and brotherhood. You need a buddy or an accountability group to hold you to actually doing the action step and then integrating what happened to you during the action step. Did you collapse and fall to the level of your shadow, or did you actually choose differently, feel differently, and create the reality as you want for yourself? And a group and a community is going to hold you to that. And that's the integration and embodiment.
Aho.
Did we say enough? Did we say too much? Not enough?
I no,